his book on there, which was read by John DeLorean.
And I just thought of that when I watched the video, and I have it here in my desk. I took it, I had it at work. I was going through all that music at work, and I brought it home here, and I gotta find it. I got a bags of thumb drives, so
yeah, there is there's probably 5 to 6 hours of audio on that, just on that one thumb drive of him talking about stuff. Well, like Papa Squirrel probably knows, he was a B-17 pilot.
okay.
And he understood aerodynamics, which was
In the bag of your thumb drives.
which was the the infamous Chevelle.
This one right here says Vince.
Well, there you go. He laid the windshield back, put the little hump on the back of the body right there before it dipped down. For the rear windscreen. Had the big fuel line in it. That he said that car had a belly pan in it.
Oh yeah.
He said that was the first time I'd ever tried a belly pan, and of course the car was so much faster than what everybody was expecting.
Right.
Again, he knew and understood the principles of aerodynamics, being that it was a B-7, and he held a pilot. Once he got out of the Air Corps, because back then it wasn't the Air Force, it was the Air Corps.
It was the Air Corps, correct? Yeah.
And once he got out of the Air Corps, he ended up flying almost till the day he passed away. He had loved to fly.
Yeah.
And if I ever get a chance to go to the NASCAR Hall of Shame, I'll definitely have to wear my best damn garage in town shirt, because Smokey Yunick should have been on the first ballot, first try, but because him and Bill France Sr. and Bill France Jr. got into a big, well-known tiff in NASCAR, as long as the France family has anything to do with that Hall of Fame, Smokey Henry Yunick will never be in there. Because
that's the bullshit.
Well, that was the thing. He told, or that was the whole deal about the infamous 26, 21 gallon gas tank, with the basketball, and like Smokey said, he goes, I'm not the only one who did that. He says that was known to some of the more smart car builders. And then once Fireball Roberts got killed, he point blank said, he goes, I won't ever run anything but a fuel cell in my race cars from here out, period. I don't care. We're not playing this Mickey Mouse with the fuel game. He goes, all of my cars are going to have fuel cells. He's the one that came up with the idea of a smart wall, taking the tires and making an energy absorbent barriers and stuff. A lot of that was his ideas.
Right.
And again, he's just, the thing is, he worked for Mopar, he worked for Ford, he worked for Chevrolet, General Motors, because he worked with Chevrolet, Pontiac, when Bunky Nutza was in charge of Pontiac and all. So he primarily developed what was the Holley carburetor. He developed a lot of that. The engines, the dual gauge leak down tester that most people use as compression, as a leak down check. He developed a lot of that stuff. Problem was, he was working for people when he developed that, and what happens in the industry, stuff you're working on belongs to them, even though it was his idea, it was his brainchild. All of his stuff belonged to them. I mean, hell, he talks about how when he worked for Chevrolet, he goes, my gig with Chevrolet was $1,000 a month. That's what I made.
Wow.
He says, in 1957, when I left Chevrolet because my contract had expired and they just kept on. And he's like, hey, we need to renegotiate my contract. And they kept, we'll get to it.
Oh, here we go.
He had a standing offer from Ford. He says, you whatever you want to do with a pushrod V8, we don't care. You want to go Indy racing, you want to go land speed, you want NASCAR, whatever. He goes, just use the Ford pushrod V8.
Right.
So when he got tired of the stuff with them in '57, he went, and he took what's his name? He just passed away not recently, I believe. Goldie. What was his name? He started off racing motorcycles and then ended up Paul Goldsmith. Paul Goldsmith was the driver for the last half of the stuff with Smokey, and they went. He goes, when I went to work for Ford that first time, he says they gave me new dynos for the shop. He goes, new tow cars, new trucks. He goes, everything. He goes, I was making engineer level salaries. He goes, they flew me home from Dearborn. He goes, I've never seen the inside of a GM jet or airplane. He goes, Ford flew me home that night after he signed the contract with them. 3 years, 3 years uncancelable. So that was, he was thinking because, or of course, he knew how volatile racing and all that would be, we don't need you, gotta go. But no, it's funny because you listen to a lot of that stuff, and then it talks about Carl Keycaver and the Chrysler locomotives, as he called them, and just like I said, I appreciate the idea of the NASCAR Hall of Fame, but like I said, they have just done Henry wrong. And
I knew we poked the bear with this one. I know if you were around, this was gonna.
I talked to Smokey Unit for about 35, 40 minutes at the first PRI West show out in San Jose.
Wow.
And me and a fella that KJ Jones is real good friends with, Ben Alameda. We were walking down the thing and we were talking about this, that, and the other. And Benny goes, well, let's ask Smokey because he's right there. So we sat there and we had about a 35, 40-minute conversation about exhaust velocities and stepped headers and just race car stuff in general. Nicest guy in the world. He would have talked to us for forever. His wife kind of tapped him on the shoulder. He goes, Smokey, you got to go. You got to give a speech. So he's like, guys, I got to run, enjoy the show. When he was gone.
So when you speak to someone of that caliber, I mean, let's face it, you want to seem intelligent, you want to have intelligent questions, but you don't want to seem like you think you know it all, and you definitely don't want to say something that's totally incorrect. So how tense do you find those conversations that should be very easy and fun? Any of you guys, how tense does that make you when you're in that spot?
Believe me, Ray, I was very cognizant of don't say something stupid because this is Smokey Unit, because we read the books, knew about the history, and like you just said, in my mind I'm going don't ask something stupid. So I was listening more than I was asking.
Right.
And I would ask him just a simple question. In your experience, A, B, just what did you see? And he, like I said, he was as nice as he could be. He did, answered every question we asked him. Didn't get snippy or nasty or short. We, went as technical as we wanted to go. And it was just like, that you answered a lot of our questions. We appreciate it. Smokey, thank you so much. And like I said, he's just like, guys, I got to go. And, they took off. And
what's really great is when you, the thing that I've had happen to me, I'd be talking to someone of that caliber, and you ask them a fairly pointed, detailed question that's not too long, fairly succinct, and the guy just doesn't give you, he doesn't go where you want him to go. He just says, "Oh yeah, well, we had one of our local racers, guy Richie Zool. He was knocking on Glidden's door. I mean, like he beat him a couple times, not regularly, but he would beat him, and he even bought one of Glidden's old cars, and they were fierce rivals. And Glidden always had the edge because he had the money, and Richie, being a local guy, was always fighting and scrapping and doing a very good job of it. So I did a lot of research on his cars, and this is stuff that he had done 45 years ago. I had the info. I had him live in the studio, and I said, Richie, let me ask you a question. That 66 Nova you had. And I ran through the specs on the car and what it had done, the best times and all. I said, how did you make that little 350, how'd you get that thing like down into the, into the high nines at the time, or tens, or whatever it was? And he says, well, Ray, that's a really good question. Because I know he had some speed secrets and tips in there. And he says, well, you know what you do? He goes, you build it, with the best of your knowledge. He says, and then it doesn't go as fast as you want. So you throw a different camshaft in it and you play with the valve timing. And then, then you change the intake and then you play with a different carburetor. And before you know it, you're like, you're in the nines. I was like, you haven't been, you're not like an iota more forthcoming than you were 45 years ago. And this is old technology, man. Now guys are like, it's like that stuff is like obsolete. But it's like once a racer, always a racer. And it was kind of funny because of the comical nature. I mean, anybody who heard it knew that, I was asking a serious question and he just gave me the royal blow off.
He tap danced around it like Fred Astaire.
45 years later. It's like, Richie, really? Come on, man. Really? I got to find that show. That was a good show.
Yeah, that one. There's one episode, or it in the meeting where he quit with General Motors. He was pushing General Motors, Chevrolet, for a bigger engine.
Yeah.
He goes, it's a two. He goes, we're running a 265. The 283 had just come out in 57. He goes, everybody else is running bigger displacement. We need a bigger motor. The off season between 56 to 57, he got his hand. Of course, they were one of his R&D guys. He got his hands on some 4-inch bore small blocks. In 57, he made a 427 cubic inch small block.
Yeah, that's very impressive.
And he's like, he goes, I was chomping at the bits to talk to them, tell them, say, hey, I made, obviously with relatively stock or reasonable parts, we can, you guys can build a 427. And he goes, we got 500 something horsepower out of this motor back then with a single 4-barrel.
Right.
And he was chomping at the bits to get that. Hey, get this into the racing program, get this into, and that's when it blew up. And
yeah,
and he'd had enough because as he tells it, he was, he's sitting there in the office, the guy's waiting room, and everybody and their brother comes in, and he's sitting there. He's there first thing in the morning, and he sits there all day, office meeting, board meetings. So they're like, "Oh, sorry, Smokey, stuff we had to handle it first thing tomorrow morning. We're sorry." He's like, "Okay, fine, whatever." He says the next day, same stuff. They're sitting there, putting him off. Guys are running in, and he's sitting there, and all of a sudden he goes, "Bill France." Come bebopping around the corner and walked right into his office. And he said at that point, I won't say what he said, but he was pretty pissed off about it.
Sure.
And then after that was when he sat there for a minute and he walked over to the secretary and he goes, so he scribbled down a phone number and handed it back to her. And he goes, when they get their head out of their butts and they want to talk to me, have them call me at that number. It was Pete DiPaolo with Ford's number.
Yeah,
that he scribbled and tossed to her. He says, if they want to talk to me, call that number there. And that's when he went and inked the deal with Ford.
Speaking of that 427, I know the fault when they had those big motors back then was really the bottom, the main, the main webbing, just it would flex. So I just saw a video. Uncle Tony did it on Pontiac's overhead cam. It was overhead cam. It was like an SOCH. No, it wasn't overhead cam.
The 6. They did a 6.
This was an 8. It was an 8, and what they did was it was going to be the new, like, it would have been like the Ram F5. But what they did was they put a Hemi head on it, and it was a Ford head. Because I thought of you. It was a Ford head from Tunnel Port Motor, and they said the real trick was the bottom end. Again, even though they had the heavier webbing from the casting, they knew it wouldn't be enough for high RPM, 8,000 RPM is what they wanted to pull out of this push rod motor. So the Hemi head hung over the block, and the outside head bolts traveled down, and then they were like, I think it said they were 18 inches long, traveled down through the head and into the block, and then they drilled and tapped the girdles in the block, so that actually finally solidified the head and block combination. Now they could do 7,000. Of course, they never. If they were talking about producing it, but they didn't, and they used the Ford tunnel port engine as their. That was their pretty much their guide. What they used. They said, because even the Chrysler Hemi, they sank the crank lower or higher in the block, and they cross drilled, which looked super strong. But they said even that wasn't as strong as those outside, those 18-inch long rod head bolts.
Yeah,
So interesting stuff, and that was done back in the 60s.
Yeah, that's like the Ford I forget what is it, the side oiler 427s and all. Those were 6-bolt mains.
Okay.
So that's when you get all the LS guys and they're 6-bolt mains and this, it's like 427 side oilers had that back in the 60s.
Yeah, they were talking about this. There's a Ford engine that they were talking about was that tunnel port, probably the 429. It came after the 427. They said it basically left the 427 in the dust with the technology they were using at the time. And I mean, those Ford tunnel ports. I just read an article on it. Brian's going to get it probably next month after I raise it out of the magazine. But I was reading on that tunnel port 429 motor. Holy shit! You almost like pass like limes through those ports, and you put it in the head, they would drop right through. That stuff was crazy.
Yeah, you look at like a 429 Super Cobra jet, or a the huge ports, the infamous 351 4-barrel Cleveland. And that's what you talk about Glidden. That's what, when he started running pro stock and stuff, that's what he was running, was a Cleveland. And they looked at some of the intakes and stuff that he had, where he basically took the intake and then just like welded and JB welded and aluminum welded and just these what he could get his hands on, and then just ported the dickens out of them.
Yeah,
to the point where they would flow 7,000-8,000 95 9, just because they knew at that cubic inch it's displacement or RPM. So if you don't have a ton of displacement, you can usually try to make more power with RPM. So
sure.
But I'm not sure why your stuff didn't come in Monday. That they told me it would be there Monday, and then they went, oh no, it'll be there the 30th. That's a big damn difference from Monday to the 30th.
I might be back by then, but maybe not.
So hey, enjoy your trip. There's a big Bass Pro Shop right there on what's his name, Speedway Boulevard. Bruton Smith Boulevard.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be scoping it out. I'll be busy. Like I said, a lot of stuff I want to do. I want to see my friend who's all the way up in Claremont. That's the guy who has the son that works for NASCAR. I mean, that's a day trip. So, like I told my wife, I said, if we really do everything we want to do, we're going to need more time. We're going to want to relax. So,
hey, you're retired.
That's it. We'll just take more time. That's all.
It's not like you got to run home Monday and go to work.
Exactly.
Well, guys, I didn't mean to monopolize the show. How was Rick Fairless, Lewis?
Great dude. Speaking of talking to somebody that's real easy to talk to, would be him.
Yeah.
He's a lot of the guys that I meet that are on that caliber are really easy to talk to, and it makes it easier to be relaxed to talk to him. You know what I mean?
Is he into coming on the show?
Well, we didn't really talk about it. He was kind of busy, so.
Yeah, well, I mean tonight. I mean, but in the future, would he consider it? That's cool. That's cool. I'd love to talk with him.
Yeah.
Ray, have you ever been to Wheels Through Time in Maggie Valley?
I passed that place every day when I was down there and kept saying, yeah, we got to stop in there. I have a shirt from my friend Kevin went, but no, I did not get in there, and I regret it.
I sent you a shirt, Knucklehead.
Well, I got 2 shirts. And I got 2.
Because I called you that one day standing in the showroom going, what size shirt did you wear?
Yes, you did.
Because I didn't want to send you a tent.
Right.
Because I'm a 2 or 3X, so I didn't want to send you a tent.
Yeah.
But no, that was unfortunately the day we were there. It was when the guy who opened that place was ill, and we talked to his son for for quite a long time. And again, like you said, Lewis, real easy to talk to, nice guy. You know, any questions about what's in the museum and all that. We were looking at the hill climbers and stuff like that, and all the, special. That's like Garlett's Museum. You can spend a day there and just go, what the hell happened? Because it's like I didn't see it all.
Right.
Got an Evo up there that's got an ungodly amount of miles on it, like 100,000 or 200,000 miles on an Evo, and the guy. I mean, it's just like I said, you'll dig it. There's a lot of panheads, knuckles, shovels, just cool stuff.
No Kawasaki's though, huh?
Nothing JDM. It's everything in there's American. They'll have Indian Excelsiors. What's the 4? I mean, like I said, it's all American-made motorcycles. Flexible flyers. I mean, they just a lot of cool stuff from the turn of the centuries. Part of this deal when I came through here is I went by Barber Motorsport,
right?
And I'm like, man, I'd like to go to Barber. It's right there at Leeds, Alabama. It's like, man, same thing. I never have the time because I'm always on a truncated timetable.
Right.
So
yeah, that when I was driving truck, man, it hit me everywhere I went. I wanted to go somewhere. I'm either going through at nighttime or I'm on a time schedule where I got to get somewhere. So I never get to see what I wanted to see. So that's why this here is perfect because I can go where I want to go and stay as long as I want.
Right.
And eat that up and enjoy it. How's the finger, Coach?
My finger's good. My finger's good. It pretty much was good up that day. I was just outside putting in a new sprinkler for the watering system.
I just sent you guys the Uncle Tony's video about that Pontiac engine that has all the Ford technology. Give it a watch. I think you'll find it interesting. If for no other reason, just for histrionics.
Yeah, it sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I was putting in another sprinkler head to get a corner of the yard that it wasn't getting.
Are you calling that the scorpion shower, or is that going to be like? Is that like for an outdoor, for a cooling station, or what?
I'm trying to get grass to grow. A lot of weeds are growing, but
you're better off going buying your grass and your weeds somewhere else and just calling it a day.
But it does work for cooling, and the dogs like it when I put it on. They run through it, but especially right now we need that cooling station because it's so officially they said on the news it hit like 114 I think today.
Woo.
And my phone the weather app says it hit 111, but who knows? It's wonky at times, but yeah, we're in a heat spell right now. In fact, when I was outside, it said right now it's 103. When I was outside working on it, it was 106. And I mean, I waited till I was in the shade.
What's 3 degrees?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I watched.
I had a cooling towel on. I had a bandana on my head to keep my head cool. So
there you go.
Keep that wet and keep my head cool. Try to get through
that. They'll think you're Middle Eastern. They'll still bomb your ass.
Well, you won't be seeing me out that way until spring or fall.
Yeah, right, Louis. Stay away from there, man.
Yeah, fall. I head that way.
Yeah. I don't blame you. It's hey, anytime I've even been in California and run into people. Like they'll see I'll be wearing a University of Arizona hat or something. They'll be like, "Are you from that area?" And I'm like, "Yeah." This back in 2015, and we were over there in this May, June, and these people they said, "Oh, we're getting ready to move out there," and I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome. When are you moving?" And they're like, "Well, in a couple weeks." And I'm like, "You're nuts." I'm like, you don't want to move out right now. You want to.
Too hot.
They're like, well, we know it's the desert. It's hot. And I'm like, no, it's a different kind of hot. I said, what the best time to move here from anywhere in cool country, you want to move here November through February. And I said, and then you have that time to acclimate.
And
I
then
said,
move out again in
Yeah, if you can come and live here for the cool months and then either go to northern Arizona or go somewhere else cool during the summer, then you got it planned out right. But if you're gonna be here during the summer, you definitely want to be here in the cool months and work on acclimating. So
Hope you can.
yeah,
But
try to.
you gotta go through the cycles. You have to go through those heat cycles, and you got to go through the full thing before you really can acclimate.
Oh yeah, it takes a few years for people. Unfortunately, people come out here. I think it was about 8 years ago, and it was a real sad situation. But this lady, I guess, had come down from Alabama, and she was like, "Well, I'm used to the heat because it's hot and humid." And I guess she disappeared, and they went looking for her, and she was about 100 yards from the hotel that she was staying at. They found her. She had died,
Wow.
and I think she went out. I think they said she went out for a walk around 10 a.m.
Oh.
And it just every every few years, 5 years or so, something like that happens, and it's just unfortunate. You know, this time of year, you don't. I mean, there's people that hike, but it's best recommended you don't hike this time of year. You don't anything you do like that, going out for a walk or whatever. You either do it real early or real late in the day. Honestly, real late in the day is not that good either. You want to do it like 4 in the morning, 3 or 4 in the morning, and be done by 6, no later than 7.
Yeah.
I'll just not do it at all, and that'll be safer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just try to stay indoors. I mean, other than when I have camp, I stay indoors and do any housework I do. If it ain't first early in the morning or late at night, anything I got to do outside, I do anything indoors. And then I mean, even like I said, I was in the shade and I started having trouble with the heat. And I came in, drank some electrolytes, drank water, and then got the bandana and wet it down. I wet it down 3 times while I was working out there, you know, and kept it wrapped around my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, if I had to be out in the sun, because I've had to work out in the sun before, you keep a bucket of water and you keep a long sleeve shirt and you dunk it in the water and then you put it on. And that warm oven blast of a breeze, when we get a breeze here, and until when the monsoons hit, it's different. You get a cool breeze when they're hitting, but right now, when it's hot and dry, it's like an oven blast. But the one trick is, if you put on a long sleeve shirt, you know, like a flannel shirt or whatnot, and you dunk it, you soak it in water and you put it on, when that breeze hit, it almost freezes you. It
Wow.
actually feels nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's how hot it is.
When I was a kid, I used to work out in that stuff, and I would never be able to do it now. I could do heat a lot better when I was 15,
Yeah.
16 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Unless you're in it all the time as you age, it's harder the older you get. And I remember
Yep.
being a kid, we used to run around out in we'd run shirts off and everything, and it was no big deal. And it didn't, you know, my dad would say, get you a towel to put on your head or something, or get you I remember one time I went working with him and he said, you need to bring you a flannel shirt. And I said, it's hot. Why am I going to put flannel on and long sleeves? And he says, you do it to dunk. You dunk it and it'll freeze you. And I said, you're crazy, old man. I ain't doing that. There was the one time I got heat sick and he threw a flannel on me that was that he had dunked. And it made me a believer.
Right. Well, that's how you believe it. You seeing is believing.
Hey, when I was a kid, they used to get on to me about not wearing a hat.
Yep.
I didn't wear a hat, but I figured out why I didn't have to wear a hat.
You had hair.
When I had hair, They used to call me a white afro. I mean, I had thick, curly hair. Now, no.
That'd be a good look for you.
Yeah, no.
Papa Squirrel says aloha.
Right. Oh boy.
All right.
How's the bus running, Lewis?
She's doing pretty good. I can't complain. Just slow as dirt.
Your mileage hasn't bumped up any?
No, I'm still around 9.
Hey, like that 32-foot pusher I had, I got 9 with it, running about 65, and I would take that all day and twice on Sunday.
Yeah.
For, like I said, when they're shaped like a loaf of bread and 12 something foot tall, 9 is not bad at all. That is not bad at all.
That's like my box truck that my daughter's getting is we get 8 to 10 depending.
Mm-hmm.
It's a square brick.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just there's nothing aerodynamic about it.
Hey, I found out. I found the best use for 2-year-old conditioned gas that you had laying around for the snowblower that you never had to use, but it's been sitting in the garage for 2 years. Rental car.
Oh,
You know
God.
what? I'll tell you, I conditioned it with StarTron, and I left it closed. Guys, I watched the guy on the internet was saying, when you have gas jugs like that, the pressure changes inside due to the heat. And the question was, should you vent them and or leave them put? And his contention was, no, leave them put. It'll expand and contract by itself due to the temperature. And when you vent it, you're letting out
Chemicals.
molecules too, and things. And so, and I didn't open this thing for 2 years, but I opened it today and poured it in this rental kit. And I tell you, it didn't smell flat. It didn't smell varnishy. It smelled like gasoline.
You didn't buy it from California, I guarantee you.
No, I mean we got the ethanol crap here too, but I conditioned it. That was the thing. I conditioned it and then didn't open it. So
Yeah.
I'm sure on top of 20 something other gallons, it's going to be fine. But I was going to put it in my Fiat, but rental car got it.
There you go. You're
I
supposed
think
to put it
that's
in
a
when you get
smarter
back.
idea.
What's that, Lewis?
You're supposed to put it in when you get back to fill it back up to the
Fill
line.
it back up, yeah.
Yeah. I saw the opportunity and I took it.
There you go.
So I was talking to Ray a couple days ago about maybe putting a vintage air in the bus because it's hot, man. I mean, I can't get no relief with this heat.
Have you called them?
Yeah, I called him and he wants me to do some measurements to see
Right.
what it looks like.
Right.
They have so many different units
Oh yeah.
and setups, so I got to see what might work for this.
And obviously, you're going to need a big condenser, but they make them.
Well, not really, because I'm not going to try to cool the whole bus, just the front cab. I'm going to put a curtain up, just
Curtain,
the
yeah.
top part.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that might be doable then.
You got the twin fans up by the windshield?
What do you mean?
Just fans just sitting there,
Oh,
just blowing on
yeah.
you.
I took them out. I should have put them back in.
Believe it or not, that made a big difference in that pusher I had when I like you said, kick that air on for the driver front two seats, and I throw those fans on because it's like a fishbowl. You're sitting there, you got the big glass and yeah, it's I would throw the fans back in it.
I have them too. They're waiting for me in the tent.
Well, like I said, if you can get it cold and then you're circulating that air with the, once you get it refrigerated, or
Right.
as Ray was saying earlier, it removes the heat. It doesn't make it cold. It removes the heat.
Removes the moisture. Yeah.
So Summit Racing also has a couple different companies. One is Universal Air. So I just got to find out what's going to work on my motor, like the pulley.
I'll tell you something. My friend Paul put a system in his GTX, and it's not vintage. He says he likes this system better. I think I think I took a picture. Let me look at my phone here.
Is there some kind of a electric AC you can put in there? Because you have the batteries, right?
Yeah, I do. I need to look for that. Yeah, that might be a plan.
That'd be that.
Everything
Wiring
I've
and
ever
hooking up is
Yeah.
easier, I would think.
everything I've ever read said that you really can't air conditioning with batteries because an air conditioner just uses so much current or energy.
Mhm.
They do it in electric cars, so but I bet they use some of the
You
they
have
use
an
the big
inverter.
battery. Yeah.
Most of those kits from the electric cars come out of a Prius.
Oh,
Prius,
yeah.
just because-
Threw the parts out. I had the parts.
Just because of the cost and the availability, and and believe it or not, the Prius itself from Toyota, they've worked all the shit out of them. Like I said, that's like the electronic steering, all that stuff, and the air conditioning, all that stuff is really high demand in the aftermarket world, just because there's so many of it and they don't have a problem.
Yep.
And they work. The biggest thing with, like I said, with the you could one of the things you could do about, especially you can isolate the electric system and you can run it off your drive shaft. You have a pulley belt, and the compressor in the back, and you have a belt off your drive shaft. That way, because you're only using that when you're driving it, when you're up front driving. So when you're moving, you have that, and you don't have any. You have plenty of room underneath to put any of that stuff anywhere, and have that, and you could do something like that also.
And then
That's
you
one
sit in
thing.
traffic. That's when you sit in traffic.
Yeah, well,
You won't get
yeah,
the
but
AC.
you're hopefully you're not sitting forever. But
Yeah.
like I said, you have your condense, you have the condenser, you have air blowing. I mean, it's
Yeah. It would still be cold for a little bit. Yeah.
you're
Louis,
still
is your
doing
four
it.
seat, is your diesel in your bus straight 6 or V8?
6.
Straight? Oh hell, you can get air conditioning for that easy because my box truck is a 466 turbo diesel, and the compressor's
that's right.
on the front of the engine, and it does a very good job of cooling things down.
Yeah,
You
that's
get a
just like my box truck's the same way.
You get a
I got
DT 466 now, don't you, Louis?
Huh?
Same motor. Same motor
same
what Papa Squirrel's talking about. DT 466. It's a great motor.
So what I was thinking is maybe look for a straight truck or a box truck, the 4800, and take all that stuff out. Take the gearing out of the back, take the air conditioner, all that, brackets, get everything, then junk the rest of the truck. So
The
I'm
All
just
right,
putting
guys,
out all
time
my.
for me to bail.
All right, Jim.
Take
Hello,
care.
Jim.
Jeez,
See
yeah.
y'all next week.
All right, have a good weekend.
Yeah,
So
I got, like I said, I got a compressor off to the side bracket. Like I said, it's fairly simple doing that way if you have the room, but the electric is also, that's another way of doing it.
Yeah.
I know one of the videos I watched on the electric, they say you got to upgrade your alternator, but it has some type of an inverter it goes through. But outside of the electric, the compressor, you can hook up to all your other AC components. I watched a video where the guy, he had it on his race car. He was in New Zealand. I think that's the video I sent you a while back, Keith.
Yeah.
He had it all hooked up to his knobs on his dash, all the factory knobs. Now on his, because he had changed the motor and it was like a drift car or something like that, or a road course car, but he had changed the motor. There wasn't enough room in the front, and he had put the condenser in the back underneath the trunk. But as he was talking about it, he said you could use the factory condenser. You can use all the factory components. You just got to upgrade the alternator, and then have lines made for it.
So that guy was
Yeah.
using 12 volts.
Yeah, he was off a regular 12-volt system.
'Cause
But
the
but when I looked at that system, when I looked at it online, because on the video, I'll send you the video, Lewis. But when I looked at the video, there's a link to the company he used it that he got his stuff from, and I'm pretty positive there was like some type of a little inverter box that took the 12 volts and then bumped it up.
bumped it up.
All right, guys, I'll tell you what, I'm going to invert myself out of here and take an early leave because I'm going to get to bed so I can get up early and hit the road.
All right, Ray, have a safe trip.
Okay, Ray.
Yeah,
See ya.
take care, Ray.
Watch
Be
out
safe.
for those other drivers.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready.
Watch out for those state boys.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm cool in Virginia. So
Yeah.
for all you fluent texters, I'll be driving all day. So if I may not get back to you right away if you text me, so I'll catch up later. So,
All right, Ray.
all right,
Have
send me a
fun.
link next week, Lewis. I'll see if I can get on Thursday, and if I'm not doing something else fun or whatever, and whatever.
Sounds good.
And I will see you guys when I see you. Brian, I'll see
Stay
you.
safe, Ray. We'll talk to you later.
All right.
Take care, Ray.
So look,
See you later.
All right, Ray.
Bye.
See you. Be safe.
Yeah, so the Prius, it looks like it uses the high voltage battery, like 200 volts, and then it has an inverter to step. I don't know. Inverter controls frequency. Inverter.
know.
To change its AC.
I know when I pulled the compressor out of the Prius at the junkyard, there was like an inverter box, and I didn't know what it was, so I was like, I don't need that. I should have grabbed it and then figured out what I needed and didn't need later. But
Yeah, that is the only thing. I hear a lot of guys because they're going to say, "I want to put the electric steering in my car," and they go through and pull, and then of course they forget to get the module or the controller.
yeah,
And like I said, especially some of the stuff, or they unplug it and they don't get the harness ends,
Yeah.
that type of thing. But I know with the Prius and what's the other one, the Ford, was it? Is it the Edge? No. What is it? The Fiesta, the electric car, the little Ford.
Yeah, I think it's the Edge.
Whatever, because I should have taken it. One of the guys at the Ford dealership, they had stripped one, and he goes, "You want to put electric steering in a Mustang?" And I said, I wasn't really thinking of it. And he goes, "Oh, well, if you want," I mean, he had a pile of them, of all that electrical stuff, and he's not there anymore. Should have grabbed one.
Makes you wonder, though, why did he have a pile of them?
Huh? Because these cars get trashed because when the transmissions go out of them, and they don't want to spend $7,500 for a transmission for a car that's only worth $4,000.
Yeah.
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 That makes sense.
So they strip them. I mean,
I think
I got a shop right now. They got a whole problem because the guy said go do the transmission. He's like, dude, I'm telling you, you're going to spend $6,000 for a transmission, and the car's not worth. I mean, you have if we get this thing back together, and you need a main battery, you're looking at another $6,000 for a main battery box, And the guy's like, "Well, I can't buy a new car." And he goes, "Well, you're putting $4,000 into this pimp. You're putting $6,000 in now."
Yeah.
Brian, that sounds like some of the nonsense they were having with those Nissan CVT transmissions.
Yeah.
They would take a dump and they go, "Okay, well, it's like $4 or $5,000 for another transmission, and it's no better than what took a dump and it's not working now."
And like I said, so these guys, like I said, some people understand that, and some people are just dumping money after money into them.
I don't get it.
Well, they want to save the environment.
No, they think they're saving money. They think they're, but
They wanna hug a tree. We got a bunch of trees out here. They're called Saguaro.
as I call them, leaf lickers. A bunch of leaf lickers.
They,
Well,
they're,
you can't do it
welcome.
right, but you can do it again.
They're welcome to come hug all the Saguaros out here.
Yeah.
They got spines about that long.
Oh,
So, but yeah,
Lewis, call that boy outside of Atlanta.
Yeah, I keep coming back to the. I think I'm gonna have to.
He's probably got 98.6% of the stuff you're needing, from the air conditioner to the rear gears to a transmission, or
Yep.
he, like I said, they could probably, whatever avenue you want to do. If you want to change the transmission, put some more gears in it, or just drop the gear and put a like I said, you looked at the website, they've got tons of that stuff in there, and it's all class 7, class 8, primarily what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
So
You're talking about possibly putting a manual in there too, right?
If I could find one at the right price, I would.
Yeah.
they got pallets of those too, because I've been in the warehouse when I went to get my. It's so funny. The hot rodding world calls it an intercooler, but in the trucking world they call it an a charge air cooler. It's the same thing. All it does is it takes the boost air, the boosted air and cools it down. So
I think I'm gonna put a new radiator in. I'm gonna change the charger too at the same time.
yeah, that's. You have a boost gauge on that thing?
No, but I'm gonna add one.
Do a pyrometer too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And,
Those will surprise you when you put one of those on.
Scare the hell out of you. Going, oh
yes,
God,
they will.
I didn't know it was that hot. But I'm kind of like Ray too. I got to get up about 6. I gotta be at this job site at 7 in the morning to drop this stuff off. So
Okay.
I'm gonna dip off out of here myself. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to see you as all. Stay safe.
Yes, sir.
We'll
Take
see
it
you
easy,
guys
Vince.
next week.
All right. See you later.
Vince.
All right,
Take care. Be safe.
All right, thanks, folks. Everybody, the right button.
Yeah, Molly called and she said they lost power and they don't know when they're going to get it back. So that means I got the freezer I thought I was going to get rid of. Now I have to move it back, get it plugged in, and get it ready because she says she's bringing her food
Bring
over.
your stuff over.
I almost got rid of it. I mean, I want to get rid of this thing because it's real estate in the garage, dude. I tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, I got rid of my garage fridge. I'm like, I don't use it. It was empty the whole time. I'm like, sold it.
I got
Now
my
my
Thursday shirt too.
Yeah,
Hey.
yeah, exactly. It's a Thursday shirt.
Hey, you guys representing, boy. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I got a garage fridge that I know, and the freezer. It's just it's the same size as a fridge. It's just all freezer. There's no refrigerator part. It's upright, and it was awesome. And like I said, back in the day, we used to keep that thing stocked. Like I said, and it just over the years, especially when everybody moved out and the whole 9 yards, but just not saving stuff. I'd go buy a half a cow and put in there for beef wise.
Right.
And we changed all that. But I finally said, "Hey, do we really need this anymore?" And they were like, "We don't really use it." And I'm like, "I'm like
Outta
looking
here.
for space, And now it's like the wife just came down. She said, "We're going to need that freezer," and I'm like, I was like one step closer to going out.
I used to have a mother-in-law that in her house in Florida had 5 chest freezers.
What?
Wow.
5. She was a hoarder. And her old man got on to me one day because I didn't tell her early enough that we were coming back to eat supper. And he got on to me about causing her problems. And I'm thinking to myself, you hypocritical bastard. You got 5 freezers in the garage, and all that shit is getting freezer burned.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I know what you mean, Brian, about them moving out, and because now that my daughter's in Phoenix for for the semester. Yeah, we went grocery shopping the other day, and I think we overbought.
Oh, I know.
We'll be fine with food for a little while.
Well, that's the problem. I get the. You need to adjust your buying because Emma's going back to school or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So, or Emma will be here next week, so you got to adjust. Because like the first week she came back, I had shopped like it was just two of us, and it's like
Yeah.
we're out of food by Wednesday. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's
That's why you send her out to shop.
yeah. Well, only problem with that is they all come back with stuff that you're not supposed to. So
Yeah.
Well, my
I'm kind
all
of
junk.
strict about that. That's why it's funny. I do the shopping for my mom. And that I started that back in COVID when mom and dad were in the house, and it's funny because one of my daughters will go over to my mom's and she'll say, bring some ice cream, or something because your dad won't buy that stuff, She gets she's kind of funny. She's like, your dad won't buy me that stuff, so bring me some ice cream. So
when my daughter's home, her boyfriend would come to hang out, and he loves any chance he can come over. He loves coming and eating, and he'll eat like crazy. He's like he ain't never had food, and but he loves Mexican food. So we'll have tacos and stuff, and he'll say, hey, is your dad gonna cook? I want some Mexican food. And she goes, you know what we call that in our house? And he goes, what? She goes, food. It's just food. but yeah, I would mess with him though, because I'd get home from coaching and he'd be in there wrapping up a burrito or something. I'd be like, why is it every time I walk in here, this hippie's in here, this young hippie kid, this long hair hippie kid? Man, it's this world coming to you. Just walk up in people's houses and start rolling burritos and stuff. But no, he's a good kid. He's a good kid. I wouldn't give him a hard time if he wasn't a good kid. But
well, that's like you said, Coach. It was funny because somebody said, "Oh yeah, your girls must eat like birds," and I was like, "You got that wrong, dude." Because I got one soccer player, one's a swimmer, and one's a dancer. You know what I'm saying? And all that, man. Those kids,
Yeah. And eating like birds is a wrong answer. If you ate like a bird, you'd be constantly putting